Last week, Music Business Worldwide reported Napster was sold to Melody VR in a $70 million deal, including $45 million owed to record labels and other partners. Also, Jay-Z's Tidal made VR Concerts bet buying $7 million in tokens from a $100 million backed Sensorium Corporation. Napster, to the surprise of many, still exists with 3 million users, and Melody VR has acquired them to combine a music library to their video catalog. Melody VR CEO Anthony Matchett said, Melody VR's acquisition of Napster will result in the development of the first ever music entertainment platform which combines immersive visual content and music streaming. In addition to Melody VR, Tidal spent $7 million to acquire access to broadcast their content with Sensorium Galaxy, due to be released next year. Here with his thoughts on this is Sam Tall. Sam, how you doing? Welcome back.
I'm good, Peter. Thanks for having me back.
Great. Well, you know I love this stuff. So,
yes.
And the fact that there is virtual currency inside the Sensorium platform, kind of like Twitch bits. Yeah, and I see this as a great plan, but are music fans ready to adopt VR into their lifestyle?
I don't think so. And here's why I think that. So far, every VR experience, every virtual space, the meta space that Sensorium is talking about, this all comes from a similar sort of presentation as we had Second Life once upon a time, which I think is still out there kicking around the internet. We have Fortnite as like this preeminent platform for events now, as opposed to just a game. It's a social meeting space as much as anything else. And Sensorium uses the same engine. It's using the Unreal Engine 4, which is how Fortnite's built. Fortnite being a product of Epic Games, who develops the Unreal Engine. It's kind of the underpinning of most video games these days, actually. So at this point, like, I understand there's maybe a little bit of a psychological hurdle to becoming a Fortnite player and that being your token access to concerts. But I don't know that we need a whole other platform for this yet. I don't know that we have the technology. I don't know that consumers are able to get on board with this. Like, it's a huge hardware demand to experience something in VR, to get involved in that. I mean, the Oculus isn't selling that well. Maybe this is something that helps kind of nudge that along, move the ball forward. But is this the thing that gets us to a future of VR concerts? I really don't think so.
And what's interesting to me, and it's like, are we ready to adopt? And there are two barriers to entry. One is the price point. Okay, so naturally you have this price point. I mean, the most inexpensive is like the Google, like the cardboard box. Okay, but you really want to get into it, and then you're talking about bandwidth, technology. So yeah, there is high demands, but like, take like a platform like Steam or something like that. And to use an example, my friend who's a DJ and now she's a VR creator, she started doing these virtual, creating these like, DJ booths in the sky and everything. Now, I'm technically savvy, I'd like to think, and I know a little about computers and VR and all this stuff. And she was telling like, okay, people, you need to go to Steam, then you need to go to Wave, you need to download this, then if you don't have a fast computer, borrow your friend's computer. I used it on the desktop and I couldn't get upstairs to the DJ booth. And and I know what I'm doing. And I talked to her after, she's like, oh, I was fearing that because, the first timers, like, you had to make a friend with somebody. Didn't you read the instructions? I'm like, I didn't see instructions. And that happened in that, and there was that conference, the concert that they did inside Minecraft, was it, a few months ago? And people were complaining about getting their money back because they couldn't get to the concert.
Right. It's not a one-to-one. I think people are expecting this to be a one-to-one, and it's such a misguided principle. There's no replication for being physically in a space, for feeling the sound hitting your chest, for the experience of a live concert. Now, we can have ephemeral performances. That's what live television has always been. And I have no problem with that. I have a huge argument with people who are trying to present this as a proxy for the real world because we don't have a real world to entertain ourselves in. I understand the frustration. I think we're rushing headlong into something that doesn't exist. Maybe I'll be proven wrong in the history books. I think we definitely need people on the vanguard to push this forward and figure out what our path forward is. We have to experiment. We have to be willing to fail and take risks and all that kind of good stuff. Very on board with that. But I don't like the notion trying to sell to the consumer that this is the new concert of the future when that's categorically not the case. I also, frankly, from a business perspective, I think there's a lot of just sort of confusing and self-dealing stuff going on here. And here's what I'm talking about. Let's look at Melody VR and Napster for a second. So, eventually, I think the whole thing with Napster was like, eventually this is going to be a vehicle for something. Eventually we're going to turn this into an asset. Obviously we know where Napster started, and now we see where Napster kind of ends, right? We've waited a long time to see how this story plays out. Apparently with $45 million in payables on their books, I'm sure the ownership was just like ready to unload it. And here's a company that makes over $100 million in the past year and being sold to a company that makes less than $250,000, in their most recent bookings. So it's like there's clearly like a dumping of a dead asset here. And it's like, here, you think you can do something different with this? You can be the latest owner of Napster. Go for it. Have fun. But I'm sure the ownership is just ready to cash out. For whatever,
almost along the lines of, say, like MySpace. It was like, here, just
right, exactly. That's exactly what came to mind. It's like, here's a thing that sold for a lot of money once upon a time, and now is sold on a fire sale.
Right.
Okay.
And it's not real estate. When they're talking about acquiring something with a $45 million debt, it's not like debt is equity, where like in real estate you can carry that into an equity. This is true debt.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like this is a company that makes
creditors knocking.
Who knows how much their costs are. And then here's my final feather in the cap for this. The title thing is so strange to me. Why would they buy $7 million in cryptocurrency to access a platform? I don't like that. Like, what's the play here? I think there's a lot more that we have to know about this first, but there's a couple of facts that we want to keep in mind as we watch this play out. Number one, Jay-Z still spearheads Tidal. Regardless of who operates it, regardless of who the other artist owners are, Jay-Z still kind of like the face of Tidal as a facet of Rock Nation in some respect. Even if they can say it's separate, it's really not. Jay-Z used to be a minority partner in the Nets with Mikhail Prokhorov, who founded this Sensorium startup that's apparently based in LA for some reason instead of Europe. So there's a lot of sort of like buddy, out of one pocket into the other going on. And I get it. That's fine. Everybody's got to find their new venture. I want people to be careful when they look at a platform like Sensorium and a play like Tidal. Tidal's been struggling to compete in the music streaming market since its inception. VR is still not very prime for the market. Mm-hmm. I think artists who can take advantage of a system that benefits them for their own sake, great. Artists who think they're going to be involved as some kind of marquee partner in a new launch of a thing, don't hitch your wagon to a dead horse. That's all I'm saying.